Hello and welcome to the Villa Park podcast. It's me, Rich, and I'm back with Kev for your Tuesday night fans forum. As we know, Tuesday night is fans forum night. It's your night to get your questions and comments in. We'll talk a few things that are going on around Aston Villa as well. But yeah, it's your chance to get your questions and comments in. Anything Aston Villa related, both on and off the pitch. Before we get into it, though, we are literally 25 subscribers away from 4,000 subscribers. So it's so close. So if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button. It's totally free. Hit the like button as well. The support that we've been getting off every single show has been amazing the last few weeks. So please keep that going. Help us hit 4K. Obviously, we want to go beyond that as well, but to hit 4,000 subscribers would be amazing. If you want to become a member of the channel as well, please click the join button. If you want to donate anything to the channel as well via super chats, then please, that would be fantastic. And yeah, just help us continue to grow. Thank you so much for your support. We're going to get into the show. We're going to be talking a certain manager who signed a 5-year deal. I'm not quite sure who that is, but we will get into all of that. We're going to talk Euro 2024 hopes, some players going, some players not, and what that means for Villa. We're going to cover transfer rumours, and of course, we're going to get into your questions and comments. First of all, though, Kev, how are you doing, mate? Thank you for joining. Good to see you again.
All good, mate. All good. Good to be here, as always, with you, Rich, and all of our wonderfully loyal listeners and any of the new ones as well. Yeah, it's another great week in Aston Villa world and plenty to talk about, I'm sure, but none more so than the main man, Unai, extending his stay.
Absolutely. Guys in the chat, let us know if Kevin is sounding a bit robotic to me. Please let us know in the chat if that is the case. But we will deal with any slight sound issues. Duncan, evening to you, and you've been a member for 12 months. Thank you so much for joining. James, good evening to you. Rachel, good evening to you as well. Paul says, good evening. Good news about Emery contract, and I personally think Barkley would be a great squad member. We're going to talk Ross Barkley and Unai Emery, of course. Villa 1982, James, good evening to you. Carly, good evening to you. Deontay, the same. Saye VFC, the same to you. Michelle, good evening. PJJ, hi all. Waiting for that window to open. Yes, exactly. Bear in the garden, good evening. Alan, you all right, Rich and Kevin? We are very good. Nick, good evening to you. I've got your question as well to ask, so make sure you remind me later on for that. Willie, good evening to you as well. And yes, Marine, let's get Monchi signed up for 5 years as well. So let's get straight into it. 5-year contract. I mean, bank holiday, usually everyone's just sitting chilling, not much going on at all in the news, whether it be football related or just news related. But all of a sudden, 4 p.m., 5 p.m. yesterday, the news comes out. Unai Emery looked like he was still at work at Bodymore Heath alongside Nassif Soares, shaking hands, and we find out he signed a new deal until 2029. I mean, Kevin, this could not have come at a better time.
Well, I hope everyone can hear me. No one said otherwise, so I'll keep going. It's absolutely magic, isn't it? I don't watch Sky Sports News that often, and I was literally sat on the sofa for about 5 minutes, put it on, and it actually broke. And I'm like, oh my god, I think I'm the first person in the world that knows this news, other than everyone else watching it and on Twitter and stuff. But I mean, obviously, we knew he did the recent extension for a year, and there was talk of them extending it further in the summer, but it really got me thinking about, if you think about the Premier League right now, all the uncertainty around management positions, whether that's now or in the future, and to have the stability that Aston Villa have now got with Unai Emery. You've got Pep probably having one more season, Klopp's just left. How's Arne Slot going to do? We've all seen all those "I'm going to lose my job" memes going round. You've obviously got the situation at Man United. Man United and Chelsea both been linked with managers from the Championship. I mean, absolutely madness when you think about it in terms of that. You've got this scenario with Will Eddie Howe. If he has a bad start with Newcastle, I think he's done a super job, by the way. But there's obviously been uncertainty there. Uh, Obviously, the man at Arsenal, Arteta, is pretty stable. But other than that, in the top teams, Aston Villa have got that level of stability now, and it just calms everybody down. The Andy Goldsteins of the world, anybody that might be thinking that Emery might have grander plans than Villa, it shows just what he thinks of his football club, and we obviously feel exactly the same about him.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I mean, a few people on Talksport, obviously the news came out as soon as Andy Goldstein was on the radio, so he kind of had to eat a little bit of humble pie. He still tried to maintain that a club like Man United, if they actually came in for him, he wouldn't turn them down. But you can't tell me that no club has actually approached Unai Emery, i.e., a Bayern Munich or a Barcelona or even a Man United. We don't know what goes on behind the scenes. And for him to commit to the club for another 5 years just shows what he believes in this project. I hate using the term project, but what he believes in the plan at Aston Villa and what he wants to create and what we've built around him.
Yeah, I think that's a ridiculous argument from Goldstein. It's like me saying, well, we don't know for certain if Margot Robbie is interested in me or not because, I've never spoken to her.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, exactly.
you know,
I
if
know she would say yes if she actually
yeah,
spoke to me. Yeah, yeah.
if Una from the Saturdays is watching this pod, I'm still available, Una. So, but it's ridiculous. They're going to talk to a championship manager ahead of Unai Emery. He will be the most sought after manager in the league because Guardiola said he maybe wants a break and after a year. Klopp, who knows whether he's going to go to another job. So then my point is they're not probably going to be immediately available for someone else. Telling me that De Zerbi is more attractive than Emery right now, or Graham Potter is, or Maresca, or Kieran McKenna. He's going to be the most sought after manager. So let's be clear, these clubs would have been sounding out if there was any interest. They would have been sounding out. And there's clearly is the door has been shut firmly in everybody's face. And it says to the rest of the league, we mean business. That we're not a flash in the pan. We mean business now moving forward. And what does it say to players coming in as well? What uncertainty? What uncertainty? Not any uncertainty at Aston Villa. You don't know what you're going to get at Chelsea. You might have a new manager in 6 months. You're joining Aston Villa. You're joining Unai Emery. You're joining the project. And yeah, it's just wonderful news. And it's thoroughly deserved. I hope he got a bumper pay rise, which is rumoured that he did, but he thoroughly deserves it.
Absolutely, absolutely. And Bear in the Garden says it allows for player stability as well. It fends off these clubs as well, in terms of this compensation packages that people might have to pay and all that kind of stuff. It shows what we've built around him. So everything points to all of that. And interestingly, wanted your thoughts on this. Seeing a lot of clubs now going, or this has been the route that a number of clubs have gone down over the past few years, but particularly with Chelsea and really pointing out that it's a head coach and there's other people that make decisions on transfers. Watford have obviously done that for years. I know they're in the Championship. It looks like other clubs are going to go down that path of having like a board that will make the signings and then a coach will just coach the players. Unai Emery is now the manager, and he is and then he's got Monchi as the head of football operations. So it's interesting that we're going down that route, and we've looked at what Emery has done, and he's got the track record and what he's done for the players, and we fully trust him and what he's doing with the players that he's bringing in. It's not going to be some board or some committee that are going to make the transfers, and then Emery's going to have to try and get the best out of him. The book stops with Unai Emery, and he's earned that trust. But it's just interesting to see that we've gone down that route, whereas other clubs are going down the head coach route.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a talk about, isn't there, with Maresca at Chelsea, where he'll just kind of he'll just be keeping his head down, doing what they tell him to do. following the process, and I guess being their guy, but being a little bit of a lackey, I guess, to their win, whatever. Whereas Unai, the club's built around him now. All of his team, he's obviously his colleagues and his wider team. He's got his son on the books. He's got his granddad's club as part of the wider V Sports franchises, and everything runs through. Now, of course, there's been talk. Does that put you at a bit of a risk if he does decide to rip up his contract and go and manage, I don't know, Crawley Town in League One? Then we are left with a situation where everything goes with him. But you'd like to think we're still in a pretty good position. I think this is the right way to go. And he needs a club that are going to allow him, and he's needed that club that are going to allow him to be his own man and to make his own decisions. But I just feel like he's got the absolute total and utter trust of everybody associated with the football club and outside the football club. You see the way people talk about him in the press, the respect. I feel what's been great about the last year and a half at Villa is I think the way his reputation has been rebuilt in the Premier League.
Hmm.
Because obviously it was a bit sad what was said about him after the Arsenal spell, and yet there was still a lot of people connected with Spanish football saying, "Hang on a minute, he's hugely respected in Spain." Gary Neville being one who mentioned that a few times. So I think that level of control is great. It's great because he can do exactly what he wants, and when he's got that level of control, he's been able to do magical things in the past at clubs. Looking at all the Europa Leagues he's won, look how far he got in the Champions League. It's just such an exciting time now for Aston Villa with this change, and subtle, but maybe not so subtle change from head coach to manager.
Yeah, yeah. A couple of final questions on this, and we'll get comments through as well. Obviously, everything is positive, but they must have spoken about transfers. They must have spoken about money available. They must have spoken about the long-term vision, not just as well as the short-term vision. So Emery wouldn't have signed. I know George is quite hot on how much money we might have to spend or not have to spend on this pod, and he's very very careful about sort of looking at how much we've got and what that means in terms of wages. But Unai Emery wouldn't have signed a 5-year deal if he wasn't sure and given assurances as to what the long term plans were, what the investment was, and what he would have to spend, would he?
Absolutely not, mate. Absolutely not. And it's the point I think I said the other week is that when you think about players leaving, you think in the past, when we've lost back in the day, Gareth Barry and Ashley Young, James Milner, and Stuart Down into big four clubs. In recent years, when we were a bit lower down the league, losing a Grealish, obviously to Man City. But now, I think it would, unless it was a Real Madrid coming in from Martinez in maybe a year or two, or who knows, whatever, unless it was a worldie of a club, which, the same thing could happen to anybody. You same thing could happen to Man City. Someone could want to go to, Haaland might want to go to Madrid, doesn't matter, even matter if it's Man City. I think we're in a position now where who's going to want to leave? Who's going to want to leave? Now the manager's staying, and which of the players are going to want to leave as well? So the stability is fantastic. It will be on our terms, subject to profit and sustainability rules, of course. And that's a fantastic position to be in, to know that you can build from such a strong core and base, and you're not going to have people coming and nicking your players, nicking your manager, because it'd be on our terms. I just think it's magnificent. To be a Villa fan and to be in this scenario is such a rarity. You think what would happen in the past, even when we had a great season, we're going into that summer thinking, remember that old time with Grealish? Is he going to stay? Is he going to go? And Dean Smith there was a chat with him at the side of the pitch, and like, well, is he going to stay? Does he look happy? Go back a few more years. Fabian Delph. All right, lads, I'm going to definitely stay for this club. And then a week later, the boy from Leeds, in case you didn't notice it, he's off. And I don't worry about anybody, particularly now we qualify for Champions League. There's always that background thing, isn't there? Like Watkins is an Arsenal fan, and we might want to sell Louise if we've
Well,
got the player.
that's the thing. If you sell someone, it's going to be on our terms and it's going to be at a premium.
Yeah,
Or if we sell someone who's one of the fringe players, then we're going to sell them for a bit of money and try and make a bit back. That's the case. It's always going to be on our terms right now.
yeah.
It's not it's not going to be because a manager has to go. A manager's been sacked and he's bring someone else in, and then he doesn't fancy this player and he has to bring in his own players. It's not going to be like chaos like that.
No, not at all. And I also think as well, if we did get a 100 million for Louise or an 80 million for Martinez or whatever, 80 million for for a big top player, Think what this team we've got in terms of Monchi and Emery, etc. Think what they could spend that money on.
Mm.
You know, there's a lot of talk of the Barkley deal being half the price of what we're selling Sanson for if it goes through. You know, it's shrewd business. You know, you're replacing better players, but with better players, better prices. Yeah, I've got to pinch myself still, mate. I can't believe it. Well, how are we on a podcast talking about this when we've got Champions League qualification in the bag? That Villa TikTok, by the way, of the Luke Littler thing is
Yeah, I can't
brilliant.
shake. Yeah.
It's brilliant. Can he? Can we? Can we? And it's like these. Like, oh, we're sponsored by Adidas now. Champions League qualification. It's just fantastic, mate.
Yeah, brilliant. Jason says Emery is a good fit for Villa. Willie says great news with Emery now. The board must back him 100%. Illicit had a comment as well. Emery and the owners both know they have a good thing. The progress is clear to see. Never had a doubt in my mind that Unai would sign a longer deal. Absolutely, exactly. And he also says there's a mutual appreciation of one another's ambition between Emery and NSWE that will lead to exciting results. And that came to my final question about the Emery situation. Are we going to win the big prize with him in this during this next 5 years?
League Cup. League Cup.
Yeah, Carabao Cup, mate. Yeah.
Well, someone's got to win it, Richard. Look, to break that stranglehold of the big teams, we've had in the Premier League era, let's call it, you've had Blackburn and Leicester, right? We got to build now, I think, to be a consistent Champions League qualification team. If we can be consistently around the top 4-5 positions, but really, if you want to go beyond that, look at Arsenal. They finished second now 2 years in a row. You look like they might be able to go on to that next level. But I look at it and think if we can add some more quality additions with this manager in place, why not? I think particularly when there is frailties around other clubs. You know, Man City won one trophy this season. For them,
Yeah, I know.
for
Mm.
them that's not great. And I do think that Arsenal with the striker, I think they would have picked them. And Liverpool made massive changes. I still think they well overachieved Liverpool to finish third. Teams are going to get better, but we are already on the upward trajectory and have been season on season. We're in a massively good position to strike now. Whether we can deal with the Champions League run and everything else, maybe we have to sacrifice the domestic cups like we spoke about last night, possibly. But is it till 2029? I think we've got to be thinking. We were still in the mix in February, March this year. Why not, mate? Why not?
Mm. Yeah. Yeah, Jonathan in the chat. Great to have you on board, mate. We have to target the Prem. It will be hugely difficult, but that's the only way to maintain the top four. And you said this the other week, Kev. If we go out and have the ambition to try and win it, then we'd at least aim to finish in that top 3 or 4.
Yep.
That's got to be the it's got to be the aim now to try and win it. We've won 20 league games this season. If you can go and try and win 25 games next season, 26 games next season, see where that takes you.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the belief is going to be there now. We've got to be thinking, oh, do we belong? Do we belong on the periphery? Or do we belong in that sort of seventh, eighth, sixth, maybe battle and possibly pushing on? Or do we actually think, you know what, we're better? I think we've got to look at it right now and see ourselves as being as good as everybody, maybe bar Arsenal and Man City. And but I even think Arsenal, I don't think we're too many signings away. You know, if we had Mings back in that team, Kamara back in that team, and then we buy a right back, buy a 10, buy another midfielder, you know, strengthen when we need to, maybe another centre half and replace Carlos. I don't think we're too far away from being able to compete. You know, we need to get a bit better, don't we, in terms of back end of the season. Our running stats are pretty low because that's obviously the tactics that we play. Maybe we need to in certain games, you know, look at the way we played against teams like Man United, where they seem to do a job on us. We need to control games a bit better. But
Yeah,
you know, recruitment this summer, I think, is going to be huge because it will show us whether we've got the squad to fight on all fronts, basically.
yeah, yeah. That actually leads me to the question from Nick, who does our music and does our intro. So a great question, and another shout out for you for doing our music, which is fantastic on our
Awesome.
intro and our outros. So, hypothetical question: if Villa didn't make a signing this summer and we get a fully fit Ramsey and Moreno back, Buendia and Mings return, and Nedeljkovic comes in, how do you think we would fare?
Well, I think if we didn't have any injuries or any significant injuries, with everybody back, I think I think we'd finish top four again. I think we would.
Mm.
I mean, you'd have to hope that the players who had a good season have a good season. But I'm saying that by the way that no one else makes a signing as well. Yeah. Um,
Well, there, that's the thing, isn't it? That's the thing, because if you don't make signings, my saying is you've almost got to spend 40, 50, 60, 70 million to stand still, and
you have.
that's the problem. Chelsea potentially going to spend, Newcastle will definitely have money to spend, one or two other clubs, Man United always seem to find money from somewhere to be able to spend. So Arsenal are going to get that striker that you've been talking about. So yeah, while hypothetically it would be, we're talking about four brilliant players coming back and four actual first team players in Ramsey, Moreno, Mings, and Buendia, and that's not including Kamara as well.
Kamara, yeah.
So you're talking five actual first team players that were regulars in our first 11. There would 100% make a difference, but you still need to make signings to push
Yeah.
yourself on, because they don't necessarily solve all of the weaknesses that we've had having those players back.
No, and it's about a squad now, isn't it? You know, you look at other teams and players that hardly get a look in off the bench, and they're quality players. You know, I know we've had at times early in the season, in particular. I remember thinking just how much better is our bench than it used to be. But then last few months we've been creaking. We've had six goalies on the bench. Players that have never played any minutes. Loads of youngsters. Um, yeah, I think we still changed the game, but there's been times when our only attacking option's been Duran, maybe, or Zaniolo, and they've obviously contributed, but we need to get a better squad. But we also need to, if we want to kick on, develop the first team. And I think both those things are important. We need to get better players, possibly to come straight in, and then maybe some of the current incumbents of the shirt, maybe they have to go on the bench, but be good additions on the bench. So it's going to be an interesting time. It really
Yeah.
is. And these new Crystal Palace proposals that have been put forward might help us out, mightn't they, with that transfer kitty?
Well, yeah, I was going to come to that, but we'll talk that now. I'll get your opinion on it now. My opinion was, I knew that something like this would happen, and I cannot see any club turning this down if it means that they're going to get additional funds to spend, or it's going to relax the PSR rulings. I always thought that something like this would happen, because as soon as stories in the papers start getting leaked about this potentially happening, or clubs looking to lobby against the Premier League or whatever, I knew that something was going to happen. And if the Premier League starts seeing that, the whether it's down to PSR or not, but the fact that the English clubs haven't qualified and got and won the European competitions, the Premier League are going to look at that and think, do you know what? We might need to make sure that we're continuing to keep improving the quality and the standard of players in the Premier League. And as soon as another league starts getting better players, or you look at Italy and what they've done this season with the number of clubs that they've got through to these finals, the Premier League aren't going to like that. So as long as they can look like they're saving face a little bit, but still give players give clubs a little bit back, then they will do. And I kind of knew that something like this would happen. And if it relaxes the rules by 20 to 30 million, plus the extra additional that we save off the fact that Southampton have gone back up, because I think that's 5 million per club on the PSR as well. It's only going to add, and it's going to relax what we're able to spend.
Yeah, I think you bang on, mate, with that. For Aston Villa to be the furthest progressed British team in Europe, in European football this season, the only one that got to the semis. You think in recent years, when we've had like both teams in the Champions League final, and we've obviously won, other European trophies. West Ham obviously won the Conference League. The Premier League is the biggest and best league in the world, and it when remember seeing all those coefficient rankings going out when we were when we were that whole, are we going to finish fifth or not? And I was thinking, you would have thought England would have just been top, and it would have been Germany and France and Italy trying to fight it out, and Spain trying to fight it out for the extra spot. Like, why is it not us at the top based on what we've done in recent years? But just goes to show, doesn't it? So, yeah, it does not surprise me at all, and it's just all good news for us. Imagine a situation where you win the national lottery, and then you're down the Ferrari garage, and they're like, nope, nope. Go get yourself an Auto Trader second-hand 1990 model, son.
Well, yeah, you're gonna have to go for
Yeah,
just free transfers only. Just just a little run around. It can get you to A to B, but it might not get you to C.
yeah. And the thing which is still, I think, the most hypocritical situation of it all is that Man City managed to spend as much cash as they wanted to, clearly with no regard for the rules, to be at the point now where they've won 4 Premier Leagues in a row. No one's ever done that before. They won the
Mm.
quadruple last season. So their success is based on them being able to spend, 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 spend. Blackburn did it when they won the league in the mid-90s. Spend, 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 spend. And you know what? Teams like Newcastle who could do it, Villa, there's plenty of other very, very wealthy clubs out there. Why can't we? Why can't we do it? So yeah, I think anything that can help us be able to use the funds that these billionaire owners have got to push this club even further forward, then I am all about it.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Guys, we have got over nearly 90 people watching, which is great at 10 p.m. on a Tuesday night in end of season as well talk, which is just brilliant. So please hit the like button. We've got 35 likes though, so I want to get 50 on tonight's show at least. So if you haven't already, smash that like button. It really does help us grow the channel. Hit the subscribe button as well. If you're new, we are approaching 4,000 subscribers. We're just over 20 subscribers away from 4,000. So if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button as well. If you want to become a member on the channel, please click the join button as well. Just $1.99 a month to help support the channel even further. And then any super chats as well you want to help to support our channel, then they are very, very much appreciated. Just going to shout out our show's supporters as well. At Football Prizes, they have a current prize going on to win a signed Pau Torres shirt. And at the moment, the raffle tickets are usually £3.95, but as it stands at the moment, they're £3.16. I think that is a limited time only that those tickets are available at that price. And your name goes into a draw. There's only limited tickets, as you see, 199 tickets available, so you've got a very good chance of winning the Pau Torres signed shirt, and then there's also the chance to win one of 13 instant win prizes. Of one of those is a Diego Carlos signed shirt. So please visit footballprizes.co.uk and search for the Pau Torres prize, and you can potentially win that prize.
Awesome.
Kev, we'll talk transfers. I will do a transfer show later on this week just to round up the latest news, but we've seen a few bits and bobs going out there in terms of transfer news. I guess the Ross Barkley one, I don't think I've had your thoughts on it as yet properly. Maybe the other day, but I think that one should get done. We're talking, I think it's a 2-year deal with the option of an extra year. He's mentioned today that at 30 years old, he feels like he's in his prime and he's still got a number of years ahead of him. What are your thoughts on this? Because I think it probably looking at about a £2 million fee just to pay up the last part of his contract, and then like you said, it's a deal that is half the value of what we've got for Morgan Sanson and a player who's done very, very well in the Premier League last season.
I think it's a great deal. I'm delighted. I really am. I think more and more, if we think back to the end of the season when we were playing, you didn't want to bring Tim off the bench. We were playing Chambers in midfield. We had all the injuries, and then you got that Louise and McGinn double pivot, which maybe isn't the best. And there's times when I didn't think it was working playing Diaby and Bailey. I just think that we've lacked quality bodies in midfield. You need to be able to buy players that are prepared to maybe not play every single week. And that's the challenge. I mean, that was always a problem, wasn't it, with Tottenham over the years? Who's going to play second fiddle to Harry Kane? We've got the
Mm-hmm.
same problem now with an Ollie Watkins. You bring another striker in. What are you going to bring in? It's kind of how I feel about the Iheanacho situation. It's like, at first I'm like, absolutely not, I'm not interested. And then I'm thinking, well, what are your options otherwise? Who's going to come and go, yeah, I'll come off the bench every 10 minutes and play the odd Carabao Cup game? So Barkley, for me, he was fantastic last season. He was. He played loads of games, well over 30 games last season. He's not played tons of games in his career because obviously he's had a few injuries here and there. So it's not like he's going to be absolutely battered in terms of weary in the legs. He looks fit. He looks strong. Still looks skillful. Looks like he's got a bit of pace. I think at the age he's at, with the experience that he's got, I think he's a really smart signing for Aston Villa. He knows the club a little bit. Obviously spent some time here. And I actually thought before he got his few injury troubles in that season, when we were looked like we were going to win the league out of nowhere at the start of that season, I thought he was brilliant. Working in tandem with Grealish and Watkins. So, I remember the winners at Southampton, winner at Leicester. It's just obviously a shame that it was the COVID season. So for the fee, for the rumored wage, for the experience, I think as part of the squad, I think it's a really, really clever deal. And as long as he can keep his fitness, I think he'll add real value to the squad.
Yeah, I think generally everyone in the chat's very positive. Michael says great deal for Villa. Peter says he watched Quinny's Villa analysis today and he persuaded me on the Barkley move. John Steele says Barkley's a different and more disciplined player now. It's a great deal. So very, very positive from a lot of people in the chat, and I think you're going to see a lot more of this situation because of the profit and sustainability rules. There might be one or two big signings for each club, but a lot of the clubs will bide their time, wait, try and get cut price deals, try and get loans
Yep.
to with a view to buy and look at players on free transfers. I mean, if you look at what we've done over the last 2 seasons, Kamara on a free transfer, Yuri Tielemans on a free transfer, potentially Ross Barkley on what is as good as a free transfer. Someone in the chat, Kevin, said Hermoso doesn't look like it's going to happen, but even just to be, we're looking in those markets for bargains or free transfer type deals, and that's probably where we're going to have to box clever a little bit. But at the same time, you can get really good players out of it.
Yeah. And what do you and I always say that we need is midfielders with what? With a
Physicality.
bit of physicality. 6'2", what Ross Barkley? 6'2", built like a boxer. He's strong. He's tall. I think it gives us a bit of physicality in midfield. So yeah, there you go. CH, great minds. So yeah, there's no bad news in this deal for me. Now, if he's the only signing we make this summer and he comes in to replace Louise, then I'll be annoyed.
Yeah,
But
yeah. We
you know,
want him in addition to, not instead
yeah,
of. Yeah,
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 I agree.
yeah. We've also seen Youssef and Nessery linked.
Yes, please.
Sevilla striker. I don't think you talked about their players who would play second fiddle to Ollie Watkins. I don't think that he would be coming to play second fiddle to anyone. He looks like a very, very smart striker to me. Been linked with the Premier League for a number of years. I think West Ham have been heavily linked with him in the past. Just going to bring up his situation on SofaScore. 26 years of age, Moroccan international, predominantly left foot. He played 33 times in the La Liga this season, scoring 16 goals. 13 big chances missed as well. Don't know how well that would go down with Villa fans. 6 headed goals, 9 with his left foot, none with his right foot. So look, predominantly left footed, but also decent in the air. 2 assists and created 2 big chances as well. So it looks like he's a real kind of goal scorer. Doesn't necessarily get involved too much in the play, but obviously a high quality player. Seen him in the World Cup as well for Morocco, played very, very well. I mean, I think it's something like the 20 to 30 million euros price tag. He would be a good signing, but to me, I think you're probably right in moving more towards the Iheanacho type signing than an Nesiri signing. But you never know, mate.
Well, let's tackle this point in a couple of ways. I know I made the point around the whole Harry Kane, Ollie Watkins, who wants to play second fiddle, but maybe that's a conversation had saying, listen, I'm not going to play you in every game because we want to fight on 4 fronts. And actually, if you are playing 50-odd games in a season and you get 25 starts and you get 15, 20 sub appearances and you're fighting on 4 fronts for a team that could well win something, could still be a good move. In terms of the player himself, I'd be all over it. Everything I've seen, I'm super impressed. His last 3 full seasons in Spain, because he didn't play a full season. I think he was injured in 21-22. That's 3 full seasons, 2021, then 22-23, 23-24. He scored 62 goals in those 3 seasons. So he is a goal scorer. He's always impressed me every time I've seen him. He's 6'2", so a bit of physicality. Knows where the net is. Good age. I think he'd be a really, really good signing if we could get him in. I've
Oh,
thought actually
he'd be fantastic.
seen him in the past, and I've always thought I wouldn't mind seeing him down Villa Park. So, but
Yeah,
yeah, I think I know what you mean. I think there might well be more of a. I was kind of thinking if they're going to bring a backup striker, and obviously Iheanacho has been one. Who was the guy that was it that Pavlidis that we played for Alkmaar? Did he? Who was the guy
yeah,
who
yeah,
scored?
yeah. Score. Every striker that we came up against in that Conference League seemed to be like just a demon goal
Amazing.
scorer. And the one we were linked with, Jonathan David, was the one who was
Yeah,
disappointed. But
yeah.
Alkmaar had a great striker. Uh, the Olympiacos had a great striker.
Well, he's not even a great striker.
Legia Warsaw had a good striker.
Was that Mookie?
Yeah,
Moochie?
he was
Yeah.
brilliant.
The Olympiacos strikers basically played for the Dog and Duck for the last 10 years.
I know.
Played like prime Ronaldinho against us.
I got 5 goals over 2 games. Like,
Yeah.
honestly, it was unbelievable.
Yeah, I know. Although I do think the way we played against Olympiacos in those 2 legs, I think you and I might have got a double hat trick each as well.
Yeah. But yeah, it's ironic. The one we scouted and thought was brilliant, Jonathan David, hardly touched the ball in 2 games.
Did nothing. Did nothing. He's just a
Yeah.
shit Ollie Watkins is.
Yeah. James thinks we'll go back after Tammy Abraham. He did get injured. Nearly came to Villa apparently last season. Emery really rates him. Well, that would be definitely getting the old players back together, the old band back together, getting Barkley back. I know they didn't play together, and then getting Tammy back in. That would be crazy. Then all you need is Jack. Then just to
No.
bring those 3 together. The Grealish sandwich between Tammy and Barkley.
Yeah. Then Conor Harahan, Chris Samba. Um,
Yeah.
get, get them
Get
back in.
get Albert back out of retirement.
Is Gary Parker still available? Do a job
Kevin
in midfield.
Richardson.
Kevin Richardson would do a job in midfield 100% still, I
Oh,
reckon.
he'd be class, wouldn't he? Again,
Yeah,
he'd
he
be
would.
class. Yeah, a few people talking. Shane says Ben Yedder on a free. Sai AVFC says that Mucci. Yeah. And he also says Gerard Moreno. So I mean, there's numerous strikers out there, but we definitely need someone to help cover. I know we've got potentially John Duran, but we'll see. We'll see what happens with him. But yeah, there's numerous players. We've also talked in terms of other positions. We've talked. I did the transfer talk roundup about Bellanova. Apparently, we're watching him. We've watched him numerous times across last season in the Italian league. Right back, strong, physical, 6'2". Looks like he can get up and down the pitch. Got 6 or 7 assists already, so he looks like a really highly rated player. Carlos Soler, not sure I know too much about him, but if Paris Saint-Germain and 1 or 2 other clubs, and he's at Paris Saint-Germain, I know Sociedad are looking at him. I
Yeah.
think Villa and Villarreal have looked at him as well. Maybe our interest has cooled slightly in him, but again, technical player, technically gifted. We'd see who he might come in to supplement or even come in to replace. But the names that we're shopping at and the type of player that we're bringing in, it's interesting, isn't it? Who we're looking at the moment. You're looking at those defenders and you think younger, maybe more physically strong. Maybe he's looked at that fullback position, looked at the numerous injuries that we've had, and thinks I need a bit more durability in those positions, and then maybe more technicality to kind of break teams down in that midfield area.
Yeah, I think we've obviously said it's going to be maybe some shrewd signings on a cheap deal or free transfers. But I'll be keen to see if we're going to bring any showstoppers in. I still think that Frimpong or maybe Williams, the winger, instead of the Spanish guy. You got one of those deals over the line that would showing everyone we really really mean business. And who's to say we don't land one of these targets? Champions
Mm.
League qualified club now. Frimpong, did he play with I don't know how long he's been there. Did he play with Bailey and Diaby? Maybe they can get in his ear a bit.
I think he's very close to Musa Diaby in terms of friends. I'm pretty sure they played together. That would be a phenomenal signing. I just don't know if he would leave Leverkusen after such a great season, but he would be a phenomenal signing. And if you're
Him as
talking about
to
someone
Villa,
who
innit?
could potentially get the best out of Bailey, I know we've already seen the best of Bailey. He's been brilliant this season. Best out of Diaby, he would be phenomenal. And then there's Denzel Dumfries as well. With potentially he's available. Whether that's his agent looking at tempting into Milan to make a bigger offer for him on a contract, it's just why I know you said it last season in last preseason, and now we've got even more kudos to back us up. But why not be in the name? Why not be in the hat for these type of players? We've got the Champions League football to attract people with. We've got Unai Emery's tied down till 2029. Look at what he's done across this last 18 months. Why not go for these big names and go for these big players?
Yeah, if the deal is right and the price is right and it works for us, then why not? Why not indeed? I mean, we've spent a hell of a lot of money last summer on obviously Diaby, Torres was a decent fee as well. So we've shown we will spend, and you said it earlier, mate. You've got to spend shed loads of cash to just to stand still. Remember when we got promoted? We spent 120 million just to just about stay up.
Mm.
So it's even bigger now when you think about trying to kick on in these top positions. Obviously everybody's a bit more careful because of these profit sustainability rules, but oh, a Dumfries, a Frimpong, a Williams, a Goncalves, a Buena, any of those players, you'd be salivating, wouldn't you?
Yeah, I do think some of the big deals will happen after the Euros if there are going to be any really big transfers. Now, domestically, there's been a couple of names put around there potentially looking at being clubs looking at, and that's Callum Hudson-Odoi and Morgan Gibbs-White. Now, Gibbs-White, I've really liked watching this season. I think he's one who consistently plays well, always puts 110%. I know that's a cliche, but always puts the effort into the games, puts himself about. Hudson-Odoi's had a bit of a stop-start season, ended the season pretty strong for Nottingham Forest. What are your thoughts on potentially those two, if anything could be done? No, maybe Nottingham Forest have to sell to again comply with the PSR rules.
Hudson Odoi, no thanks. Morgan
Mm.
Gibbs White, yes, please. I think Hudson Odoi has got undoubted talent, but I think he's pretty inconsistent. I think he was decent-ish towards the end of the season, but I don't think he'd have the consistency of a player that we'd need. I think Gibbs White is a proper player. I think he's really good. He seems to also to really dominate games at times as well when he's on his pomp. And I think under an Emery as a manager, he's young, he's strong, he's fit, he's skillful, he's great shot, eye for a pass. Yeah, I'd be really happy with Gibbs White as a signing, definitely.
Yeah, he's a good player, isn't he? He's a really good player, and you're talking about someone who can drive the ball forward through that sort of attacking third, either take a shot or play someone in. He's a really good player. I think he's probably slightly unlucky to not get into that England reckoning,
Yeah,
but
I think so too.
I think there's obviously Eberici Eze kind of plays in a similar fashion, and the way Forest ended the season probably wasn't going to get him too much in the shop window. But yeah, I think a higher profile club would do him the world of good. And if I know that it was like 45 million, I think they paid for him from Wolves, so they're probably going to want to make that money back, even though they might have to sell for profit and sustainability rules. So he wouldn't come at a cheap price. So we'd have
Yeah.
to we'd have to look on that. But yeah, I really like him as a player. I really would like him. But yeah, it's going to be interesting. I mean, any other players that you've seen potentially linked? Any other players that you've looked at that you think, yes, I would like Villa to be shopping in that field?
Either Mr. Eze or Mr. Elise for me would be
Yeah, yeah, obviously, yeah,
Adam
yeah.
Wharton. Adam Wharton looks an absolute baller.
Oh, I can't believe we didn't. I know people turn their nose up at Championship players, but sometimes you get an absolute gem.
You could pick a fantastic 11 now. Think of Championship players in the last few seasons. A McGinn, a Watkins would be
Well,
would
look,
be
we got Morgan
Nick.
Rogers.
Morgan Rogers, yeah. Jared Bowen was not bad, was he, from the
Yeah,
Championship?
yeah,
Um,
cool.
so yeah, yeah. Eze, Elise, if they were going to go to a big club, why not us? But I'll tell you what, I'd be worried about our players moving to Palace at the moment. They're so good, best team in the world, Palace.
Four in the
Watkins,
England squad. Yeah.
they've been unbelievable, haven't they? They're back end of the season, and I think again it's similar sort of situation, but and okay, the lure of the Champions League is massive. So any of those, I did always think Walker Peters might have been a decent signing. But
Yeah, he's not a bad right back. I
yeah,
don't know if he'd be physically strong enough and
yeah, is he an upgrade on Cash? That's the thing.
quite got. Yeah, exactly. Is he a considerable upgrade? You think maybe he showed a bit of loyalty to Southampton to get them back up, but no one really went in hard for him to try and tempt him away from Southampton last season, did they?
Yeah, I know. Other players I'd like to see. Rodri would be good, I think, in that midfield when they get relegated to.
I meant credible. Any like
What's wrong
credible
with that?
rumors that you've seen?
Surely you're going to want to play for Unai, aren't you? So Rodri, no, okay. Oh, sorry, I thought being silly. I don't know. When I think about the positions we need to strengthen in, it's like a support striker. It's maybe a creative player. Domestically, realistically anyone else we could bring in? I think we could. I think
Mm,
the Smith Rowe days and maybe those rumours.
yeah,
He's
they're
kind of
done now.
not done much, has he? I don't know if I'd take Saka because I think he's just a bit moany, any Saka. So we'll give him a miss. Anyone else you can think domestically that you thought, yeah, I wouldn't mind
He
them
was just,
having a part?
yeah. I mean, it's just. I think Emery could get something out of every player. It was just to see if I know Conor Gallagher's been potentially linked. Like I say, Mick Morgan, Gibbs White might be touted around. Hudson Odoi might be touted around. I'm not sure if there's any other UK based players that have been touted around too much. Again,
Paul,
it seems quite quiet.
Paulinia, Fulham.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind him. He's pretty good. A lot of people talking about. Well, Ziggy has mentioned a player called Gear Truida from Feyenoord. I'll have to have a look at him. A lot of people saying Eze. A lot of people saying Eze, which would be great.
Oh, it'd be
Um,
so good.
so yeah, he would be fantastic. He would be. One of those is definitely going to move. I think Elise's on about Man United though.
Why would you go to
Um,
Man United? I finished eighth in the league. I know
yeah,
why you go to Man United, but you get my point,
yeah.
right?
CH has talked about Gray from Archie Gray from Leeds, and that brings me to Leeds and talk about Somerville and one or two of those other players from there. I know it's difficult to judge on one game. They definitely didn't turn up in the playoff final. Would you look at Somerville? Would you look at an Archie Gray? Any of those players from Leeds?
Archie Gray is very, very highly rated, and obviously is proper football dynasty. In terms of obviously his granddad and a bit lesser so his dad, but his granddad certainly is Leeds sort of royalty, Eddie Gray. And I think he's going to be a top player, but he's 18. And he played one season. I think he's probably a bit too soon for him. Somerville, I won't just judge him on one game. I think he's been really, really good for Leeds in the last few years, but easy an upgrade on the players that we've got right now to come into that team. I'm not convinced. I think when you look at Champions League and where we're at now, wide player. We've got Bailey, we've got Diaby, we've got, I guess, Rogers and Ramsey can maybe play slightly wider at times. I don't know whether he would get in the team.
He'd definitely be third choice, wouldn't he, in that wide area? But it's whether he would want to, yeah, whether we would want to spend the 20 to 25 million that would probably have to pay still to get him, and whether he would be wanting to be that probably third choice player. Now we're talking about options off the bench and needing game changers. Potentially, he's one of those players that can do stuff like that. So we'll see. But on the evidence of Wembley, I thought he was. I didn't think he was the worst out of all of them. I thought that Rutter was terrible,
Terrible.
and I thought Nonto had a terrible, terrible game as well.
Oh,
I,
Nonto, yeah, awful.
I
Yeah,
thought Somerville was the best of a really bad bunch, but they just couldn't get going. I also thought their midfield. I like Kamara usually as well, but Glenn Kamara. But I just thought they moved the ball way too slowly. They kept trying to play the ball sideways. They weren't going forward enough, and they seemed they seemed to play like you remember when Villa played Fulham and we lost 1-0. They played
yeah,
like that,
yeah, they
like
did.
like Southampton got the goal. similar fashion to how Fulham did in that game quite early, and then Leeds just couldn't get themselves out of that malaise of just trying to play, like trying to look relaxed, but also knowing that they had to get a goal, and they just couldn't get themselves out of it.
Y-
It was a
Yeah,
really strange performance from Leeds.
yeah, it really was, and it's funny, isn't it? You get those players that are linked over the years. You think, oh my god, they seem like they'd be a ball. I remember when Glenn Kamara was going to come when we had Gerrard
Yeah,
at Rangers, and then you realise that maybe that's his level. I'm not saying it is, but maybe that's his level. Like how good are these players? I thought Southampton played really well, to be fair, particularly first half. I thought they were good. Um, so I think there probably will be a bit of a sale at Leeds, and there's some good players there. I don't know whether the skate has been done. I think Gray's certainly the one I think would be a real talent to get from there.
yeah, he seems to be able to play anywhere. I know he was playing at right back. I didn't think he had a great game, to be fair, but he's very, very highly rated. Got a good engine, got an intelligence about him in terms of his play. But you've just got to be careful with those type of players, that because he's played like 25, 30 games at age 18 in the Championship, they're almost bigging him up to make him a viable, sellable option if the worst happens, and they'll probably get 30 million for him when he's probably not necessarily worth that. If I was
Yeah.
his agent and family, I would say just stick at Leeds, keep playing your football, because otherwise he might get swallowed up at a bigger club and not play for 2 or 3 years.
Yeah, I need to make a correction, by the way. Eddie Gray's is a great uncle, I think. Frank Gray's his granddad. But there you go.
Ah, fair enough.
So that
Fair enough.
correction. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. I've met Eddie Gray. Yeah. Um, Random fact.
There you go.
So we are going to finish up very soon. I think it's been a really really good chat. One couple more subjects to talk on. I will get your thoughts on the Euros and some of the players that have been put into the squad and not put in the squad. But Saev FC asked a question about, well, not necessarily just a question, but around the north stand and moving people for more hospitality seats, and your thoughts on that. And I guess, I mean, I think it's one of those necessary evils. Unfortunately, with the money that we've got to bring in, I think maybe the communication could have been better for, and maybe the offer of maybe first refusal for these hospitality tickets and stuff like that for the people who are being moved. I think maybe that could have been handled a bit better, but I think unfortunately this is the inevitability of, if we want Villa to be a viable option, if we want Villa to be attracting corporate sponsors and all that kind of stuff, we're going to have more of the hospitality seats in the ground, aren't we?
Yeah, it really is a really unfortunate necessary evil. I totally agree. Um, it's crap, isn't it? If you've been the supporter for all those years and that see, the club start doing really well and then they turf you out. It really is. No matter how you look at it, like it's not a good look for the club. But this is the nature of the beast now, and I think there might be more things. We're going to be paying more for the kits if you want to buy kits, and may pay more for training gear and coats and all merchandise, and that's just the world we're living in now. If we want Aston Villa to compete, it is painful. You would ideally think, you know what they'd do? They'd increase the stadium, a few more for seats, maybe relocate one of those fans, and then increase the hospitality. But no, they're doing it all now. So yeah, I don't feel comfortable about all this kind of stuff because the club's about the true fans, but we've got grand plans now, haven't we, for to maximise the revenue, and this is obviously a big part of it.
Yeah, and of more details of the Adidas deal have come through, in the fact that yes, it's 20 million, but there's also other 20 million per season. There's also other triggers in there about trying having to sell 300,000 like units of the kit. So there is going to be some aggressive sales tools used to try and get that extra money out of Adidas, and then to obviously hopefully bring us up into that premier team or whatever we get, whatever the ranking system that Adidas have with regards to the clubs in there on their roster. So everything is going to be geared towards additional revenue. I think what they've got to do is make sure that the value for money is there and the quality is there, the quality of service is there. So I'll be interested to see. I know the lower grounds thing was a tough pill to swallow. A lot of people who've gone in there said it's actually pretty good, but it'll be interesting to see what this warehouse situation will be, what this the rail seating and what atmosphere that brings, what additional things that they can bring with regards to the additional money that people will be spending, how good the Adidas kits, how good the training kit's going to be. Because if it's deemed to be value for money, people won't mind paying it.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely, absolutely, and of course, Adidas is the one of the premier sports manufacturers. So I'm hoping that the kits live up to our expectation. Um, because if there's ever going to be a time, I've got what have I got on here? It's a Macron one,
Yeah,
so buying kits in a Macron day. I mean, I was a bit younger then. I don't keep buying fits as I approach 45, but yeah, look, I'm probably more of a training kit man myself now for when I'm out exercising. But Adidas Club at Aston Villa, it's a great link, isn't it? It's a great link.
yeah, yeah. James seems to think that we're working on naming rights for Bodymore Heath, which would be
Oh,
interesting.
do you know what it should be called? It should be called Body Form Heath. Wow, Body Form Heath. Sorry, remember that advert? The Body Form Bodymore Heath Arena.
There you go, mate. Maybe Chris Heck should get you on the marketing team and the
Wow,
branding
Chris,
team.
I'm here if you're interested, mate. I've got loads of
Yeah,
ideas.
yeah. But yeah, it's going to be interesting, and I know it's one of those things that always divide fans' opinions. I just think it's about value, and I think the way that the value and communication, I think the way that they handled the lower grounds and the terrace view was really poorly communicated. I think the way that they've done this with the supporters and communicating with them there, I don't think it's been great. I think some of the things that Heck's done in terms of his interview and in terms of the team bus and all that, and some of the things with the Adidas kit and everything like that's been really good. There's little touches with the communication that I don't think is quite value. Like sometimes his words where he's talking about valuing the fans and wanting to make sure he's respecting the traditional fan, the words don't necessarily match the actions, and that's
Yeah,
what I'd like to see a little bit more of.
yeah, agree.
Yeah. Um, let's just finish up with England, not England. Well, yeah, England and Euros. So we've had a bit of a mixed bag, and I want to know your thoughts on this, whether it's good or bad, because Ollie Watkins and Ezri Konsa could well be in the England Euro squad. Obviously, that is going to be decided in the next couple of weeks. Yuri Tielemans is in the provisional squad for Belgium. Matty Cash, I don't think is going to be fit
No, he's
enough
out.
to be in the Poland squad, and Pau Torres wasn't named in the Spain squad for the provisional Euro 2024 squad. So yeah, obviously it's a mixed one, isn't it? Because you feel disappointed for the players, but in the sense for Aston Villa, having as fewer players, and obviously John McGinn's involved with Scotland, having as fewer players as possible involved, it can only benefit Aston Villa for next season.
Yeah, it's really, really selfish, isn't it, to think that? Because my first thought was when I heard about Torres not going, is yes, get yourself on the beach, son. Relax those legs for the long campaign ahead. And then I was like, but the pinnacle of your career is play for your international team
Exactly.
in a major tournament. So it's really sad. I tell you what, I'm gonna have a cheeky bet on Spain to win it because if they've got centre halves good enough to get ahead of Torres, even just the provisional squad, then they're probably going to win the tournament. If they're the same, they must have the best centre halves in the world because he's an absolute baller, isn't he? So yeah, a bit of a shame. I mean, I still think there's a chance that Konza might get cut.
Yeah, I don't think I think there's enough defenders in there for him to justify not taking him. And I don't as brilliant as Konza was last season, I don't think he covered himself in glory the last few games of the
No.
season in that right back position. And sadly for him, Gareth Southgate was watching a couple of those games.
Maybe.
Brentford, he didn't play well at all, and
Oh no.
Southgate was there. And I think there was another one where he was there and he didn't play particularly well. So I don't think he will get in that final cut. He's probably got to have a really really good game in one of the warm up games to get himself ahead of
Yeah.
whoever else is in there.
Yeah. Score a hat trick or something.
Well, I think he played really well in those last two games
He did.
for England, and I think that's what's kept him in the squad. Because I think had he not have played in those couple of England games in the previous round of fixtures, I really don't think he would have been in this provisional squad. So he's really got to take his chance in this next spot.
Yeah, and again, it'd be the same feeling. I want him to play and showcase himself, but if he gets to rest and recuperate, in many ways, Watkins this season, the worst thing for Villa fans is for him to go to the Euros. He might not play that much, but you want him to be as rested as possible. But you can't begrudge your players playing, can you? You can't begrudge them.
No, well, he needs a good game as well. I mean, it's more the media that gets the strikers in or out because they've obviously got Ivan Toney in their heads about being this wonderful footballer who hasn't scored for 15 games or something, but whatever. And for whatever reason, Ollie Watkins is still classed as not being good enough for England because he didn't score a hat trick against Brazil. So that just to me, he's obviously got to have a great game in one of these games. So it's going to be interesting. But yeah, if I agree with you in terms of Aston Villa and what we want them to do, because if those players get further on in the tournament, I don't suppose Scotland will get too far. Belgium should get quite far, but in terms of and Martinez with the Copa America, they should get far with Argentina. But I don't envisage, if say England do get far and Watkins and Konsa are in there, they might not be in pre-season, right? Well, they certainly won't be in pre-season right at the start. They might not even play the first 1 or 2 games of the season because they'll have to have 2 or 3 weeks extra break and then come back into pre-season 2 or 3 weeks later, which means they probably won't start the season.
Yeah, yeah, and that obviously then impacts you when with all your plans you've got, getting yourself set, getting the team shape, the getting the squad cohesion, all that stuff going on. So yeah, don't forget as well, Den Dunker didn't make the Belgian squad, still a Villa player. So
Mm,
just
yeah,
about. Sweden,
yeah.
that's did Sweden qualify?
I don't think so.
Hmm.
It's, we'll have a look, but Olsen might be in. I mean, that's going to be a killer, isn't it? If Olsen doesn't come back in time for pre-season.
Oh, we're gonna be absolutely flipped, aren't we? If that happens. Yeah, no. I mean, I do wonder whether he'll move on. I don't know. It'd be
Yeah, I
interesting.
think he will.
It'd be
I
interesting to
think he
see
will.
when
But
Alston.
yeah,
Mm,
I think he will, and it'd be interesting to see if I had the interview with AVFC Academy, which was really good interview. So if anyone hasn't watched that at all, please do go and watch that. But he was talking, and we've got loads of keepers that went out on loan. And then
mm.
Sinisalo did phenomenally well at Exeter, got a
Exeter.
full cap for Finland as well this season. So he's got to be worth a couple of million now, two,
Mm.
3, 4 million. So he should be really, if we're potentially going to utilize him, then he should be in that. He should be in ahead of Olsen, in my opinion.
So you think Emmy, Gauchi, and Sinisalo?
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, they loved him, didn't they? Down there, they loved him. They loved him. He's been absolutely like idolized, and obviously they did great, didn't they? Did really
Well,
good.
I don't understand what a young keeper has to do. If he's played a full season in League One, then he should be good enough to be a backup keeper in the Premier League. That to me makes logical sense.
Yeah, no goals though. Did he? Didn't score. So not the
You
best
are
season. Didn't score, did he? Didn't score any goals, unfortunately.
no. Yeah,
Oh,
and
he's a keeper. We'll let him off. We'll let him off.
yeah, Oliver Zick as well played all games in the
Oh yeah,
first in Poland, and he got nominated in the Polish league team of the year or something as well.
yeah. It bodes well. I do wonder whether we'll see anybody else come through from that
Mm,
squad. Because yeah, you've mentioned four. That's obviously if you've got Gauchi, Sinisilo, Zich, Emmy, Olsen. There's five keepers there, so there's definitely a bit of cash to be made if you're going to move one of them on, or maybe two.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I think that does us, mate, for Fans Forum. Really good chat. Really good chat. Obviously covered transfers. We've covered the Euros, potential players in or out of the squad. Unai Emery signing for 5 more years, keeping him at the club until 2029. I mean, what better news can you have than that? He's going to win the league with Aston Villa. There, I have said it. I have said it. We've got plenty more shows coming up for you for the rest of the week. Myself and Gareth are going to be doing a special Talking Tactics transfer series. So we're going to focus on 5 players each show. So the first one of those will be coming up towards the end of this week. If you want to get involved in that and let him know of a particular player that you want him to look at, then please go onto his Twitter at GC Analytics or at that Gareth AJC, I think it is, or YJC. So do check him out on Twitter and ask him. But we're going to be doing that this week. We've also I've got a potential interview coming up next week that I have to keep under wraps. And I will also do my transfer talk roundup shows. So plenty more to come on the channel. Make sure you hit that like button if you haven't already. Make sure you hit that subscribe button. Help us hit 4,000 subscribers. We are literally 20 away from hitting that number. So if you haven't already, please do hit that subscribe button. Thank you, Kevin, for jumping on tonight. Thank you, everyone, for watching. And as always, remember, we all follow the Villa.